He's angry about mortgages. It's Angry Mortgage. He's swearing. He's cursing loud. He's old. He's opinionated. And he's been doing this so damn long. This program is about mortgages, and this is mortgage advice, but the advice may not apply to your situation. Contact licensed mortgage professionals for specific recommendations before you make decisions about mortgages. You may not agree with Ron, but if you don't, he thinks you're wrong. Oh, and did we say there is a lot of swearing?
We are back.
I'm back.
You're back. Jann's back. Jann is back. Angry Mortgage is on the air featuring this massive mortgage brokerage person who there's really no neck that's visible, right? I mean, you cannot see me have a neck. Jann, who works in our company and does a tremendous job, talks to hundreds of consumers a week, borrowers in a week. She knows what people are thinking because she's talking to them all the time. Mm-hmm. All right, we got a packed show. Lots of shit hitting the fan. And first of all, really important, I have a new shirt. Okay. By the way, that's for people who seem to, like, it's the weirdest shit that people notice on the pod.
Are they nitpicking your outfits?
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but like, it's the weirdest shit. Sometimes people notice on the pod, like, they'll say, oh, I noticed that the lighting has changed. Like, who gives a shit, really? But anyhow, I have a new shirt today, so everybody might notice it's a different shirt than in the past. I have a new shirt on today. I ordered shirts, so here they are. Like that is like you might say, well, Ron, you got a new shirt. Where do you get these shirts from? There is a tent making company, okay, that
Shut up. Oh my God.
to make these shirts. Okay? That's where they come from. Like, seriously. Honest to God, like I try to avoid pictures at all times. But I had one picture taken at an industry event, and I thought, this is like this massive creature in a suit is just drifting by. Okay, lots of stuff to cover today. Mm-hmm. Mortgage rates.
Yeah.
Nothing happened, really. I mean, we'll hit the Bank of Canada in a minute, but fixed rates, because let's face it, fixed rates are what 75-80% of people get today.
Yeah.
Fixed, right?
Yeah.
So fixed rates, no change. Nothing's happened since last week. Same. People also ask, well, are you going to finally tell us what week it is? Yes, it is. It's the end of October. Okay, just say the end of October, please. That's what it is. Halloween, whatever.
Spooky season.
Yeah, that's what it is. So no change this week, but there's a possibility fixed rates may come down next week. We don't know. By the way, when I say come down, I don't really care about this tiny changes, but if things hold the way they look, we might get a bit of a drop next week.
Like a significant drop.
Well, it's never like, here's the thing. When you talk to consumers, they think significant is like 1%.
Oh, no.
But in the mortgage business, no.
That doesn't happen.
No, that never fucking happens, okay? Well, it happened once. Tiff Macklem, the Bank of Canada governor, raised prime rate once 1% about 14 months ago. 1%. Like, that's a ball buster, right?
Yeah.
But no, in the real world of mortgage rates, never really happened.
It was probably past COVID off too, right? So
yeah,
they're trying to recover. Yeah.
But we may see a drop. I like to only really think about drops that are like 0.25%, 25 basis points. We may see a little drop next week, but stay tuned. That's going to be on the next show where the rates come down, because fixed rates, I know I sound like a broken record, but fixed rates, talked about on the show, bond yields. So bond yields have come off a bit. So but it takes time for the real thing to develop. So we're going to be watching it closely next week. Now, we did have the Bank of Canada this week. The Bank of Canada announced nothing. Nothing fucking happened. Okay. Now, that's always funny because, it's when the Bank of Canada actually changes something. It's on the television. It's like when there's like interviews. There's like people talking about it for a week. I mean,
reporters calling you all week,
like crazy. And hell's breaking loose.
Yeah.
When nothing happens, it's a nothing burger.
It was pretty quiet. Yeah.
And the news just puts on their little 30-second blurb. The Bank of Canada announcement today. Nothing happened. Oh, but I noticed that it was an announcement with a press conference.
Oh.
They don't all have press conferences. Okay. So my deep and personal friend, no, that's just a lie. Tiff Macklem does not know who I am in any way, shape, or form.
One day he will.
Nope, he will never know.
I'm convinced one day he will.
No.
Getting popular.
No, he will never know. Tiff Macklem will never know who I am. Because, 2 reasons. One, he doesn't care what people think. Okay, he's got a job that's a certain.
He has to, yeah.
No, but
he has to not care.
That's just sort of his job not to care. Also, I don't think he ever did care. I mean, this is a guy who I don't think he pays attention to social media or anything like that. I wouldn't probably do it if I were him. But he just doesn't care. Not that kind of a guy. So, but he did come out. He had a press conference when he announced the Nothingburger. Oh, no change. Okay. And, that press conference, it's kind of interesting what he said. Because this is something we haven't touched on, but we should touch on it. Does the Bank of Canada governor try to manipulate public opinion when he makes announcements? Yeah.
How so?
Well, he came out and he said effectively hawkish stuff. Like there's the doves and the hawks. Like doves obviously good. It's like a wedding, right? Doves fly out. Does that still happen at some wedding? I was at a wedding where there were doves. Were you ever at a wedding where there were doves?
No.
Like an outdoor wedding this summer, you can have doves, okay?
I'm doing an outdoor wedding.
Okay, well then you could do doves.
I don't want doves.
You don't want the fucking doves. Okay, yeah.
I don't want the fucking doves.
Because the first thing that comes to mind is like pigeons. The dove is like a pigeon. It'll just fly around, sit on your table and poop on your food, right? And then fly away, okay? Or eat your food, whatever. But doves, actually what these people do who have the doves at weddings, they're trained doves. They take off and then they know to come back to get fed.
Right.
Okay. I don't know whether they starve the poor fuckers first, but when they let them out of the box, they fly out and then they come back. Okay.
Well trained.
It's a whole thing you can do. Not cheap. Okay. So it's like dovish is good. Hawkish, hawkish. Everybody watch that in YouTube. Okay. So that means a hawk is going to come and grab your ass, which is a bad thing. But anyway, he gave a lot of hawkish talk. So he's talked about things like, based on the economy is cooling, apparently it would be necessary to observe a higher rate of inflation for a longer period of time. We do not think it will drop below 3.25% for perhaps as long as the entirety of 2024. I mean, it's quite concerning, but it's all just bullshit. So,
but wait, so it's cooling, but yet it's kind of contradicting.
Yeah, it's definitely yes, you're correct. It is absolutely contradicting because it is cooling. Like he's got to hedge his bets because here's the truth of it. He knows things. He gets a lot of information. He's got like shit tons of people working in his office, right? Highly paid. I think they gave out like $26 million in bonuses last year to these fuckers. Okay, yeah, real money.
Okay.
Yeah, real money. Okay. So highly paid people. And, I've even talked to people who've dealt sort of tangentially with the Bank of Canada who actually know people there. Yeah. They actually say there's a lot of smart people there. There's smart people at the Bank of Canada.
I would hope so.
No shit. Me too. Absolutely. So, but they have to craft their message.
Yeah.
So a little bit of it is manipulation.
Yeah.
So he can't say stuff that's like, hopefully not say stuff that's like an outright lie, because he got his ass handed to him a couple of years ago when he said, rates would be low for long, but they weren't low for very long. They went way fucking high, higher than the steepest increase, the fastest increase in the history of the bank.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what we've gone through.
Yeah.
And he also said, I concur with fellow economists that the inflation that we're currently experiencing is transitory. And it sure as fuck wasn't transitory. Okay. So that might, you can chalk those up to just mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Everybody makes mistakes. Human. Yeah. But he also could have just shut the fuck up, right? Like he didn't have to say rates would be low for long. That's not a requirement. Yeah. Anyhow, does he manipulate the marketplace? Does he manipulate people's opinion? That's sort of the question, right?
It seems like it's part of his agenda. Yeah.
Or is it part of his job? Okay, like in this way. Let me. I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses for Tiff Macklem, who does not give two shits what I think. Okay, but it's part of his job is to try to deal with the situation. So he can't outright lie. Like he sees there's signs of the economy cooling, right? Sees job layoffs, sees some retail sales down. He sees some wholesale sales down. He sees some, there's a lot of different indicators you can look at. I know of a guy who actually looks at, believe it or not, he looks at UPS deliveries. Like,
really?
Yeah. Like they do a bunch of Amazon stuff, right?
Right.
Although they seem to be doing less. Because I see now it's just these anonymous trucks now, right? You get Amazon once in a while, right?
Yeah. It's like somebody driving in their own personal car.
Yeah. There's more of that. It used to be more
like courier, like
sort of professional
companies.
trucks, right? Yeah, but less of that. But anyway, these are guys who analyze things like trucking. Sort of they analyze like hours that truckers are on the road, because actually that has to be reported in a lot of states and provinces in Canada. A trucker has to keep track of how many hours he's driving.
Yeah, of course. They'll get pulled over if they pass it. Because
they're supposed to sleep for a certain amount of time, right? So, which is a great idea.
Yeah, sleeping is always great.
Or let's just take drugs. Let's just take Benadryl or Bennies or drink Benadryl or whatever the fuck it is. Like, I'm not an expert on, like,
sleep drugs?
I know they're not sleeping drugs. They're like keep you up.
Oh, then definitely not Benadryls.
Well, what amphetamines can you take? I don't know fuck all about it. What
I don't know. Crack?
Crack probably is unwise. If you're driving a big rig, it's unwise. But I mean, although that did cross my mind, like cocaine will keep you awake. I mean, I don't know if you'd be interested in driving, but it'll keep you awake.
Don't condone it. Nonetheless.
No, we're against
Please
cocaine.
Don't.
Yeah, we're against cocaine, right? We hate it. Okay, like listen. So the bottom line is that they keep track of drivers' hours driven. Okay, and that's because these logs exist and they have to be kept. Records have to be kept. So there's a service that accumulates it all and uses it as an economic indicator.
That's very smart.
Yeah, it's smart. Like it says, if truck drivers are driving less, like if there's less hours driven,
less import, less exports,
less business. Less stuff happening. Okay, so this stuff is tracked and it's all headed down. Like not dramatically, not incredibly,
gradually,
but gradually down. So Tiff Macklem, the Bank of Canada governor, suspects that the economy is headed for the crapper. So he uses the word, the economy appears to be cooling somewhat. So he says that because he doesn't want to be like a total bullshitter. Okay.
Yeah.
But then he points out correctly that inflation is not just dropping like a stone. Okay. It's not. It's just going so gradually, and it looks like it's pretty sticky. And here's what happens. After a year or a half of prices going up, everybody in a union says, fuck this, I need more wages. Okay, you got to pay me more. This is fucking stupid. Like, I mean, my dollar buys less. My paycheck buys less.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've seen it, right? We've seen this, there's been strikes, right? And stuff, right?
Exactly.
So that's what we're up against.
What would be like the goal there? So is he trying to like manipulate the day-to-day consumer to think that, oh shit, people are not purchasing, like we should follow suit?
That's exactly half of it. Okay. That he wants to let people know that, hey, things may be cooling, but inflation could stay high. So what he's trying to tell the consumer is, don't get excited for cuts. So you're right. He's trying to manipulate the consumer so that they're not thinking, oh, cuts around the corner. I can go out and buy a motorhome. No, fuck, cuts are not around the fucking corner.
It's not the time to do so.
So when he says he thinks inflation will stay higher for longer, well, the automatic thought process is that rates will stay high for longer. It'll be a problem for longer. Everything, because it does eventually bite, right?
It does. Yeah, it does. 100%.
You experience it.
On my day-to-day.
Yeah.
Yeah, you realize how much more, the cost of living is hitting, right? Especially in Toronto. Jeez.
Jesus, Toronto. Holy shit, Toronto. But I don't think Vancouver's any different, to be honest with you.
No, yeah, for sure.
I think Vancouver's expensive as hell. I do know, though, I mean, like There was a little snippet on the TV about a place called Canmore, Alberta, which is
Canmore?
Canmore, yeah.
I love Canmore. I went to Canmore for my birthday last year.
Just outside of
beautiful
Calgary. Beautiful mountain country.
Yeah.
And they were showing some kind of waterline accident or something. Maybe it was Cam Rose. Could have been Cam Rose.
Oh.
Something with a cam in it. It was at Alberta. And anyway, all these new houses.
Yeah.
Tons of new houses. There's a lot of building and growth out there.
Oh, yeah. I went to an Airbnb in Canmore.
Oh, yeah.
And it slept 13 people. And like
Jesus.
every bedroom was like a full 5-piece ensuite.
Wow,
So
that is custom made Airbnb, right?
Exactly. And then all the houses on the street were all the exact same.
Wow.
So
Wow.
Yeah.
An Airbnb community.
Basically.
Well, it hopefully everything works out for that poor bastard who built all those.
It's like 15 minutes from Banff. So I feel like it'll never, but I mean, with the Airbnb thing.
Well, the Airbnb thing, like,
who knows? Actually, not.
We discovered the other day that the federal government's taking it, even though they have no control over it, they're taking an interest in it. So not in a good way. Anyway, the reality is that the Bank of Canada governor, he wants people to not spend because that continues to cool the economy. So he needs to keep the threat of high rates in everybody's mind.
Right.
Like, let's face it, if he just came out and said, you know what? I'm looking at all the indicators. Looks like things are going to shit. Looks like a recession's on the way. It might even be here. Looks like there'll be a lot of people losing their jobs. Looks like, and you know what? Once that happens, inflation's dead. I can even cut rates. He will never say that.
Of course. Yeah.
That will never. Someday someday he will have to cut a rate. We don't know when. But should we think about when? So, all right. So when is when, if he ever cuts a rate? And here's a quick thought. Everybody who you hear, if you hear a real estate agent or a mortgage broker say, you know what? They're going to start cutting rates in March. Okay.
They're not well seasoned, are they?
Fuck the seasoning. I'm going to say, liar, pants on fire. Okay. Like, that is bullshit.
Yeah.
There's going to be no rate cut in March. Fuck me. No. But, will it be the summer? Will it be, end of next year? Someday the rates get cut.
Yeah.
Just not March. Okay?
And it's going to be gradual. It's not going to be like a whole 1% at a time.
By the way, that is exactly the point. It is unlikely that they will start reduction at any more than 1/4%.
Yeah.
Okay? And that they might wait 2 months and do another quarter. Who the hell knows? Like, it's unlikely that it will come down as fast as it went up, barring some kind of geopolitical disaster. All right. So, is there a recession coming? The recession might even be here.
What would you say defines a recession?
So, okay.
We know what a recession is.
There's a technical analysis of recession. A technical analysis of recession is negative GDP growth, gross domestic product growth, negative. It's getting worse.
Yeah. For
2 straight quarters, 6 months of reported shrinkage in the economy.
Okay.
So, and here's one thing about Canada. When you have huge levels of immigration, it's sometimes hard to shrink the GDP. We know individual per capita, GDP has been getting worse for months and months and months. Okay. That's just a fact. But when you bring in 1 million people a year or 1.2 million people a year, that introduction of new people picks up the national economy. But, eventually nothing can withstand. If a recession hits, it hits. That's it. Here's something people like to talk about a lot. Like, people talk about the U.S. economy. And I would have to tell you right now, it's looking more and more like because obviously they're our biggest trading partner. They're our neighbors. I mean, they influence a lot that goes on in our country.
We're in a relationship.
Deep relationship. Like, we have the relationship of the mouse who has to sleep with the elephant. Okay. Like, don't roll over too fast, dude. I mean, yeah. So the reality is, are the economies really becoming divergent? Okay. In other words, is their economy going to just keep on chugging along while ours sort of hits the ditch? Okay. I don't know. But
is there key differences right now?
I mean, obviously it's a lot bigger.
Right.
But, But, in theory, it's 9 times bigger. But that doesn't mean it's always, that just doesn't make it more successful.
Yeah.
they really believe in research and development there. Like they make things there. In Canada, we have a hellish tendency just to sell each other houses. Okay, like the real estate's too much of our economy. That's reality. It's just too much of our economy, and that takes away from productivity. Productivity in the United States is nearly 60% higher than ours. Okay, wow. Because they spend a ton of money on research and development. They spend a ton of money on making new things, inventing things. I mean. Like, and so does other countries. Like in Europe, there's other countries who are doing a better job than us. And because if you do a good job at inventing things and finding new processes and finding cheaper ways to do things and finding more efficient ways to do things, that's good for your economy. Okay. And the other big difference is that in the United States, they put in an act about a year and just maybe 14 months ago. They had put in legislation that called for massive spending on infrastructure. Okay, so more roads, more this, more that. Also more money poured into energy efficient industries. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to build more battery plants. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. I mean, like we're going to do things. We're going to find ways of, we're going to pay for research to find, is there a cheaper way to make a cheaper, better, more efficient, and much, much lower carbon emitting concrete than any place else in the world? Can we do all kinds of research into these areas? And that money flows, and that means manufacturing grows in the States, which manufacturing doesn't grow here at all. That's it. So they have a different sort of agenda to their economy. And, possibly one of the biggest things is that we have these incredibly expensive houses, batshit crazy house prices, which we're all familiar with. I mean, you're somebody who'd like to buy, but is tortured by the high prices still.
I am fucked.
Well, yeah, there's now it's possible the prices will come down. Yeah. Cross fingers, cross toes. But yeah, in the States, they went through this massive reduction in house prices in 2008. They're part of the world financial crisis. Yeah. Prices fell and they kept falling and they stayed low. And regrettably, people lost their homes, but it really kicked the shit out of house prices.
I can imagine, yeah.
To the point where once they started going up in, say, 2015, 2018, they'd gone so low, they had so much of a lower starting point that they're nowhere near where we are. Okay, even though they're up. All right. So, hell, that's a big deal.
It is, yeah.
We didn't have that experience. Our house prices fell for like 10 months, which is really nothing. In 2008, our house prices fell for like 10 months.
Yeah.
Then they caught back up again quickly. And, then the batshit crazy road of super high prices just took over. So,
that's crazy.
Well, it happened, and here we are. So they have part of the fact that all of their housing is still cheaper to this day. Lots of people like to. Yeah, we get that on. By the way, we get that a lot in the comments section of all of our social media. Well, no, it's like Manhattan is very expensive, and LA is very expensive, and San Francisco is very expensive.
So what? A couple cities.
Exactly. Like Chicago is fucking cheap. Houston is fucking cheap. Atlanta is cheap. They're low.
And they're big cities. It's not like we're talking about London, Ontario.
No shit. Yeah, they are big places, okay? And they are like alarmingly cheaper, okay, than anything in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay? It's just way cheaper. 60, 65, 70% cheaper, okay? Yeah. And of course, then everybody says, yeah, but nobody wants to live in Chicago. You're going to get shot. I mean, holy fuck. I mean, like, there's still like 4 million people living in the greater Chicago area. Right? I guess everybody didn't hate it, okay?
Yeah.
Anyway, but lots cheaper. And let's face it, if your house price is cheaper and your mortgage is enormously smaller and your payment is enormously smaller, you got more money to spend on other shit.
Exactly.
Okay? You can actually go out and eat every weekend if you want. Okay. Yeah. Like it's easier.
Yeah.
Okay?
Canadian homeowners, like, unless you're old money, you're probably house poor right now.
So friggin' true. If you bought before 2005, 2010, I guess you're laughing, but.
Yeah. Anything after, we're all in the same boat.
Well, particularly after 2015, holy shit, you spent a lot.
Okay? Yeah.
And maybe your mortgage is big. Now, one thing I want to talk about today is something we've just sort of touched on briefly before. Have you heard about this thing, the Housing Accelerator Fund?
Sounds familiar. Not too sure what it is.
It's in the media, right? Like you recognize the name.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's getting a lot of play right now. The Housing Accelerator Fund is something that came out over a year ago. The federal government brought out. But it looks like the minister either didn't care about it or nobody really cared about it. But now that the Liberal government in Canada is in deep, deep shit, okay, like if an election was held today, holy crap.
Things would be ugly.
It would be ugly for the Liberals, okay?
Yeah.
Of course, for every single poll says they're in deep shit.
Yeah.
So, and they're in deep shit about housing a lot. Like this housing thing is just crucifying them.
It's huge, yeah.
And probably they should own it a little bit. It's been 8 years they've been in charge. And then everybody says, well, they're not in charge of housing. That's provincial. Okay, but you could have done some fucking thing. Okay.
You could have stepped in.
Long story short, Housing Accelerator Fund is like $4.5 billion fund. Okay. It's real money. And right now, the new housing minister, Sean Fraser, is running across Canada. He does. No, seriously, he's got, if you go
Taking
on his
flights.
no shit. If you go on his Instagram or his X or any of his social media, he's got like a construction hard hat on and he's got like a vest and shit. Okay. Like those fluorescent vests. Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you think they do that? I don't even understand that completely, right? Like, is that vest going to save your life, really?
It's honestly, it's just like a PR stunt.
All right. Well, in his case, it's definitely PR because I don't think he's going on too many fucking job sites except with a bunch of reporters.
Yeah.
But anyway, he is running across Canada announcing deals. And so to explain the Housing Accelerator Fund, when you say $4.5 billion, that sounds like real money. It's not really if you think about all the houses you need to build, but but it sounds like money. And he runs across Canada, like he goes to different cities. He announces something in Hamilton, then he announces something in London, then he gets mad at Calgary. You know, he says
What'd Calgary do?
Why'd Calgary do? Okay, so Calgary, he insists on every place he goes. He insists that the city do something. In other words, the city has to do something to help create more housing. Okay.
Oh, okay, it's our fault. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's your fault, fuckers. So he goes to say a place like Hamilton, and Hamilton has to say we're going to rezone places to be fourplexes. Okay. So which is kind of a good idea.
Yeah.
But we're going to do all this upzoning. It's called upzoning. So that if it's a single family home, all of a sudden, boom, it might be a single family supposed to be the zoning in this area, but boom, you can build fourplex everywhere. Yeah. Everywhere there's single family, you can build fourplex. So if you announce that, you get money out of the accelerator fund. If you agree to do that, you get money. Okay. Whether it's so in Calgary, they said, I don't know if you really want to do that. Fuck you, Calgary. Okay. We'll give you nothing. You got nothing. We'll give you zero unless you do as we say. Okay. Like, fuck. Or Alberta. Hey, fuck Alberta. If you don't change all your zoning right away, fuck you. We'll give you nothing. Okay. Anyway, it's not like there was going to be any votes for the Liberals in Alberta anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, but that's on a show. Is running around, is talking about this stuff, is pushing this up zoning, this more zoning, change single family to fourplex, fiveplex, sixplex, who the fuck knows. Here's the issue, though. Here's the real issue. Like, is any of this money going to actually create cheaper housing that anybody could buy?
It honestly sounds like bullshit to me.
You're a little suspicious, right?
Yeah.
You're a bit suspicious, okay? So here's why you should be suspicious. Because now that we're actually seeing it happen, because first of all, it was just like a big housing. We have 450. We're devoted to building new homes. We have 4.5 billion. We haven't done anything yet with it. So, but now they're doing something. And now the truth comes out. The Housing Accelerator Fund from the federal government is only aimed, the money itself, even though he insists on changing zoning and stuff, the money itself only goes to social housing. In other words, it goes to government-sponsored housing. It goes to people subsidized rent housing.
Right, like co-ops and stuff?
No. A little bit of co-op, like a tiny bit of co-op, but mostly it goes to...
housing.
Nope. It goes to housing owned by the city.
Right. Oh, like the Toronto housing, Mississauga housing,
Yes,
things like that.
exactly.
Okay.
Which, by the way, they've hardly built any of it for many, many years.
No.
But they built a few. I mean, it's just starting to come back now. I see a little bit of it. So, but it's essentially housing where you put your name in and say, I don't make much money. I'm only
apply for subsidized apartments, things like that.
Exactly. You got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what it's really designed to do. Okay. Which is, by the way, a good thing, because we've spent virtually nothing on this for years, like decades.
The wait list is like ridiculous.
Yeah, the wait list in Toronto is like 55,000. It's fucking nuts, okay?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It's not going to help you buy a house. Although he says it will, because he's going to get the zoning changed, right? We're going to get the zoning. Government says, well, we're going to force municipalities to behave better. Right. Okay. So zoning, but that doesn't actually build you a house or build you a condo or build you a townhouse. Okay.
It's providing housing for people who don't have the means to purchase homes and they have to rent and they need to subsidize rent. Sure.
And they'll probably need it for the rest of their lives.
And that's fine. It's completely fine.
That's good. It's a good thing. Okay.
But that's not part of homeowners. That's not first-time home buyers that are getting that help.
Bingo.
So bullshit.
It's bullshit. Yeah. No, it is bullshit on that score. Yeah. I mean, look, I'm of two minds. Just like you, I'm happy to hear that people who are on a 55,000 person wait list for 15 years have a chance maybe to get, to finally get their subsidized housing if they need it. Okay.
Yeah.
But, everybody deserves rationally priced affordable shelter.
Yeah.
Which we don't have much of in Canada right now for a lot of people, but by the same token, is it really going to help anybody who wants to buy a house? No.
Absolutely not.
So he would say yes. He would say, no, you're wrong. By forcing municipalities to change from single family to fourplex or sixplex, I am going to greatly increase the number of homes for people. And it's going to, but will it really change the prices? Okay, like
just because they're homes doesn't mean they're affordable.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck yeah, that's right. So will it help? The jury's out. But personally, I think it's really, really important to tell everybody, the listeners and watchers of the podcast, that when you hear the Housing Accelerator Fund is doing this and the Housing Accelerator Fund is doing that, it's good for some people. Yeah. But if you want to buy a house, it's probably really doing fuck all for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Like it's not helping you buy a house. It's not finding, it's not reducing development costs. It's not reducing taxes on new houses. It's not doing any of those things. Okay. It's affecting zoning, and that's about it. So
sounds like more manipulation to me.
Could be a little bit of manipulation. Yes, just exactly right. Okay. Now here's something, and we talked about. I think we talked about One Bloor West.
We did. Yeah, last pod.
One Bloor West. So the big blow up of this huge development, One Bloor West, $1.6 billion up the spout, and yeah. And we sort of said at the time, like, by the way, everybody knew this was in trouble for years. Like, people knew this was in deep shit
I remember
years.
you mentioned, like, no Canadian loan.
No banks.
Lender, anything.
No lenders, no Canadian. Anybody who knew this development, like, intimately knew it because they were in Canada, said, no, we're not going to fucking do this. Anyway, so they found foreign banks to do it. Okay, which is crazy. But anyway, it's obviously it's in receivership, and they're still building. A friend of mine who actually works at the project still goes there every day. But here's what I heard. Here's what I saw on social media.
Spill the tea, Ron.
There's more of these.
Oh.
Now, again, let's...
As big of a project?
Doesn't look like... No, nothing's as big as this fucker. Okay,
that'd be really concerning.
This was the biggest fucking thing in Toronto. This is the biggest single project of its kind in Toronto, for the most expensive possible. There's like somewhat bigger projects, but nothing as crazily expensive as this place.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's going to be there's some more of them. So how do you tell that a project's in trouble? How do you think you'd tell?
It stops building.
Excellent. By the way, that is excellent. That is exactly what it is. Okay. Like, all right. So let's just backtrack a bit. So a builder wants to build a condo tower.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, they have to pre-sell it. Now let's imagine it's 2019 going into early 2020, pre-COVID. Okay. So they sell 80% of their units. It's a beautiful building, going to be beautiful renderings. They have this show. They have this sales center where they show you what it's going to look like.
All the bells and the whistles.
All of that stuff. And great amenities over here. We're going to have a big gym over there. We're going to have, on and on and on. All is going to be great.
Yeah.
Okay. And people put their 20% deposits or 25% deposits or whatever. And okay, we got 80% of the building sold, maybe more. And now we can build. So let's get building. Boom! COVID! So now here's the thing. Construction did continue through COVID.
Yeah.
It was an exempt industry. But all the supply chain shit happening, all the different things that were going on, that slowed.
It was messy.
It was messy as fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, slowed things down. Well, also huge construction cost increases.
Right. Yeah.
So when you bought your units, right, you had a set price. That was in the contract. I agree to pay X, okay? And it should be finished by Y date in the future, okay? By the way, there's different stages to those things. Like it says, we intend to be completed on Z date, but if everything goes to hell, our final date, Y date is 4 years later.
Yeah.
Okay, so it could, and typically these buildings are like 5 years, but it could, they allow to stretch out. So the construction costs go through the roof, but then the real fuckathon starts, okay? The financing cost goes crazy, okay? Like when the guy started building, because it's all typically done on a prime rate based arrangement. It's like typically built with lines of credit, okay?
Yeah.
So a lender comes in and says, yeah, we'll give you advances as you need them, and it's prime plus nothing, or it's prime plus a quarter, or it's prime plus a half, whatever the hell it is. And that was like $295 and then $770. Okay. And that's what you're paying. You're paying more than double, nearly triple.
Yeah.
Okay. Holy shit. I mean, so the materials, the construction costs have gone nuts. And over here, the fucking financing costs have gone crazy. Okay. I'm stuck with the same prices. Okay. But if I'm paying out more for construction than I expected, I'm drawing down my loan faster.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting as finished as quickly as I want. Oh, this is not going good here. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm running out of money over here and it's not finished over there. Okay. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
So what happens? They stop paying people.
What?
So, well, what choice do they have, right?
Oh my
because
God.
the construction costs were way high.
Yeah.
They have to pay the monthly payment on the financing, right? That's gone way high. So the money they had budgeted for is fucked. Okay.
It's kaput.
And they're running out of money. So what's the first thing you do? You don't pay the trades. Then you don't pay the subcontractors. You may not be dealing with their trades yourself, but you don't pay the subcontractors. And then it gets harder to pay your interest payment, right? And you're not getting finished. So the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is finishing and turning it into but maybe now I'm so far over budget that that won't work either. Okay.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck? So the truth is that there's a few of these. This is not like every goddamn condo.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, no, I don't want everybody to just start to panic and go out and start talking to their builder. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not it. Although it wouldn't hurt to check.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to investigate how the progress is going. Is it on schedule? For everybody out there who's got a pre-construction condo, it might not be a bad idea to look into this stuff. Okay. I might just check on to see what's happening.
So what happens to the people who put a huge down payment or even the 25%, whatever?
Yeah.
What happens if their condo doesn't get built?
Great question. And here's what happens. What normally would happen is these places go into receivership, like a trustee takes over to try to deal with the creditors. Okay. So here's the interesting thing. You don't just get your money back.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah,
you
I know.
don't. Because the receiver has got, first of all, a receiver who always makes a shit ton of money out of these things. Like the only people that make money out of receivership is lawyers and receivers. They make a ton. So they got to stop. They stop and say, well, we got to think about this. Maybe we can finish. Maybe it's just going to take longer. But if we finish, the contract's still valid. You got to pay. So we better hold on to your deposit. Okay?
Even if it's past due the time that the contract said it would.
But remember, there's lots of stages to these contracts, right? There's a stage where they expect it to be finished, but there's also like a final date that's in the farther future. And also, the receiver just might say, well, dudes, it makes more sense that we just wait and see because we're close, okay? Then you get, but it's uncertainty. And it's terrible, right? I mean...
You're basically gambling with your down payment.
Well, for Christ's sake, who wants to hear that their project's in receivership, right? No, I bought the units in there. Guess what? It's in receivership. Holy crap. Now, so is there going to be a ton of these? The correct answer is not really, because most of the big developers in Ontario are very old.
They know what they're doing.
And they're very rich. The rich part helps the most, okay?
Yeah.
Like, and some of them bought the land for cheap, right? So if you got a good deal on the land, even though your construction costs might mount up, you probably have a way to make it work. So, and by the way, everybody wants to finish because you put your project into receivership, all of your profits vanished. Like you got legal fees up the wazoo for a long time. So there's that. But there's going to be more of these folks. Pay attention. And you know where you hear about it first? I hate to say this, you hear about it first in social media. That's reality. Before it ever hits the newspaper, it's in social media. I saw one the other day, just 2 days ago. Another developer quit paying people. So I'm not going to name names, not this trip, but it's out there. Okay. It's out there. All right. Our favorite part of the show.
What the actual fuck?
That's it. And what the actual fuck is, we just today, sorry, this is almost a taping problem, right? So we have run a big expose last week of these sons of bitches who are still running around victimizing the elderly in their homes by selling them bullshit water heaters, bullshit water softeners, a lot of stuff about water, and air conditioning, or we think you need a new furnace or a new, like HEPA filter. Oh, the air is filthy in here. Like, let me do this fake test to show you how bad the air is. Anyway, long story short, we ran this big expose. People should tune into that episode. I had a good guy, really good guy. Julian Renaud is a lawyer in Ontario who has made this his passion, his mission to talk about these sons of bitches who are doing this. Because here's the most interesting thing. It's against the fucking law, okay? It's against the law. Since 2018, you can't go door to door. You can't solicit people over the phone. You can't do anything to try to get into people's homes and sell them this garbage shit, which is like always quadruple the price, but it's tied to your utility bill. Yeah, that's right.
No way.
Yeah. When you sign up for it, there's a little piece of paper that you can just add it to your Enbridge bill or add it to this bill or add it to that bill. And Enbridge has to accept it. Enbridge is not supporting these people, by the way. It's just an old law that says if you want to do this and you want to pay through your utility for your water heater or your air conditioner or whatever, that you can do this. Okay, that they will put it in as part of the billing.
Wow.
Okay, third-party billing.
Yeah.
So fuck me. But the main thing, it's against the law. It's against the law for years. They're still out there doing it.
So why is it still going on if it's illegal?
Okay, that's the very, very key question. So here's my summation on that. Canada is terrible about white-collar crime. Not terrible that we fix it, terrible that we don't fix it. Terrible that we don't prosecute it. Terrible that government doesn't really give a fuck. Okay?
Yeah.
There's so much white-collar crime. We read about it all the time. Somebody's getting ripped off. Don't get me wrong. We do hear about people being arrested for fraud, but it's always very, very straightforward. Okay? Yes, sign here, and I promise you I'll deliver this. And then you just run away and don't deliver it. Okay? So that's so simple, right? It's just obvious fraud. I mean, you signed a contract and then didn't deliver. Okay? But all the rest of the shit, no, they're terrible at it. Like I won't even go into the huge fortress development disaster. These poor people get ripped off for $400 million. I won't go into all the bullshit about the crooked construction people who seem to always be coming back and promising elderly people renovations and never doing it properly. I won't even hit that. But this shit is making evildoers fucking millionaires. One guy he was telling me, he showed me that one guy who did this, he bought a $12 million house, for fuck's sakes. He has the brains behind it. He bought a $12 million house. He's doing so well at ripping the old people off. Okay? Like,
oh my God.
Yeah, facts. Watch that podcast. But what I really want to talk about it, like, Why the fuck is this country so supportive of white-collar crime? Where are the Crown prosecutors? Why aren't we getting tough on this? Why aren't we fighting the good fight?
Why are we so soft?
Why are we so soft? Okay? Like, seriously, what we need is we need some goddamn prosecutorial Viagra is what we fucking need, okay? We need prosecutors to get real hard, real fast, okay? And get out there and, like, it's going on. It's fucking going on. Mm-hmm. Put together a task force. Deal with it. Make it happen. It's not the only white-collar crime that's going on. There's way too fucking much of it. Because guess what? If white-collar crime's going on and they're getting away with it, let's do more.
Exactly.
Fuck yes. Let's
Nothing
do more.
stopping them.
Well, we just should make it bigger.
Yeah.
Okay? Hey, Canada, prosecutors, provincial crowns, whoever's in charge of this shit, get going. Get after these sons of bitches. Don't victimize old people. Don't be signing up for $27,000 fucking furnaces. Okay?
HEPA filters.
Don't do that. It's bad. It's all bad. Enough said.
If you like the pod, well, don't just sit there. Go to YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all the other ones and like the pod. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep being angry at mortgages and swearing about mortgages. Angry Mortgage could use your support.